A wild snap, Wharton fell. Here's another shot, right by the score! Henderson has scored for Canada! Henderson right in front of the net! And the fans of the team are going wild. Henderson right in front of the goal with 34 seconds left in the game. An absolute mob scene over Paul Henderson, as there should be, but you can't underrate the effort again of Phil Esposito. He gets the puck, he fights for it, he gets it back in front of the net, but it's Paul Henderson who's parked there. He bangs at it, and he beats Cjca cleanly with an absolutely fantastic goal, and this crowd is going wild.
The crowd is going wild. Canadians went wild 37 years ago today. It was in 1972 that Paul Henderson scored the most famous goal in Canadian hockey history. Henderson scored with 34 seconds remaining in the final game of the Canada-Soviet Summit Series in Moscow. The NHL Stars tallied 3 times in the final period to win 6-5 and take the series with a 4-3-1 record. Henderson scored the winning goals in each of the last 3 games, and in 1999, Team Canada 72 was named the top Canadian team of the 20th century in a Canadian Press Broadcast News poll of journalists. And it's a pleasure to welcome to the program now Paul Henderson. Paul, welcome to the show.
It's good to be back, Wade.
Well, here we are, 37 years ago today, Paul. When this day comes, September 28th, what goes through your mind?
Well, actually, this was probably the first year that I actually forgot it was the 28th.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. I got up this morning, and my wife said to me, we were having breakfast, she said, do you know what date it is today? And I said, no, well, I haven't thought about it. Why? And so, well, it's the 28th in life. So anyway, I had to be reminded. That's, but I guess we were speaking of, my excuse is that I spoke 3 times on the weekend and I was tired. So
okay.
That's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, Paul, I mean, you get this all the time, whether it's September 28th or December 28th, wherever you go, people come up to you and are sharing their memory of where they were the day that you scored the goal.
Well, that is true. I certainly, I still get, I flew to Raleigh, North Carolina last week, and 3 people come up on the plane and had to tell me where they were and what they were doing and get an autograph. And so, man, you think you're going down there, you'd be safe, but it goes on. But it's been a wonderful ride, that's for sure. And we had another reunion this year. The team got together in earlier September. We had a golf tournament on the 3rd of September, and 25 of the guys come back. So that was a terrific time of game.
Oh, that sounds very special. Now, Paul, for young people who weren't around in 72, but maybe hear the stories through their parents or whatever, tell us again about the significance of that series. I mean, this was much more than a hockey game.
Well, it was the time of the Cold War. The USSR were trying to take over the world, and they were definitely using sports as a propaganda issue. All their athletes were professionals. They all went into the Red Army, and that was the discipline that they did all day long. And obviously at the Olympics, they were winning the most medals, and because all their athletes were subsidized. And even at hockey, they'd been winning because they wouldn't play against the Russian or the pros. Our pros were not allowed to play. And so it was almost a battle of ideologies in the sense that they really challenged us, and I really believe they thought they were going to win because they were that well prepared. And it would be another feather in their cap. And so that was the background of it. The players were sequestered away. They were really an unknown commodity. We couldn't get to interact with them because of all the security and everything like that. But,
yeah.
Anyway, that for those reasons, it was a monumental series. It was our way of life against theirs.
And, you as the NHL Stars, you guys were pretty cocky going into the series too, weren't you?
Well, we were pretty confident, that's for sure. I mean, you look down the lineup we had, we were confident that we would just overwhelm them with our ability. But
you had a wake up call in game 1, didn't you?
No, there's no question about that. We found out how great they were. They're very, very skilled, and certainly their physical conditioning was unnerving. I mean, I'd never played against athletes in that good a shape.
Yeah. So take us back to that 34 seconds, Paul. It's a great story. It's one that a lot of people love to hear and relive. I mean, the DVD set is out there, so people can still watch it. Take us back 34 seconds before the end of that game.
Well, I was actually on the bench with about a minute to go and stood up and yelled at Peter Mohavlich to come off the ice, something I had never done before and never did again. I mean, you just don't do that. But Peter Mohavlich came off the ice, and I jumped over, saw the Cornway had the puck on the far side, and I yelled at him, and he threw it across, but it was a little too far out in front of me, and I couldn't one-time it the way I wanted to. And their defenseman came out, actually tripped me, and I fell into the black wards. And I remember thinking, I still have time. I can go down the ice because I'd gone through the whole team to win the seventh game with about 2 minutes left, and I still have time to score. But when I got up, I saw a fellow, Esposito, whack the puck at Cjca. Cjca should have covered it, but he didn't, and the puck came right to me, and I fired it, but he got it with his pad. But fortunately for me, the rebound came right back to me, and he was down, and I had about a foot to put it in and threw it behind him.
Not the prettiest goal ever scored.
No, it wasn't. I scored 7 goals in that series. 6 were really nice goals. The only garbage goal I got was the last one, and that's the only part. We've been watching a garbage goal for the last 37 years.
Well, Foster Hewitt in the audio we played there says, "Do not underestimate the effort of Phil Esposito." So obviously, Phil was a warhorse out there. He worked hard, and he attributed to your garbage goal.
Well, I would say to you, I think in 1972, Phil Esposito was probably the best forward in all of professional hockey. I mean, he was a force in front of that net, and he was a big man. He had incredible stamina. And I would also suggest that maybe the best period of hockey ever played by a Canadian hockey player up until 1972 would have been the third period that Phil Esposito played in that last game. I mean, he was a warhorse. He was our inspirational leader on and off the ice, scored 1 goal and set up the other 2. So that just gives you an idea of how great he was.
And Paul, I'm sure a lot of people listening right now who are maybe not aware of what you're doing these days. I know you do a lot of speaking engagements. Update us on what you're doing these days that's keeping you busy.
Well, for the last 26 years, I've run a men's Christian ministry. I started with 3 men back in '85 and got over 700 men now that meet weekly. We talk a lot about being husbands and fathers, and definitely looking at the spiritual dimension of life and how that plays out on a day-to-day basis. My wife and I speak at marriage conferences, and obviously I speak a lot in the Christian community. I spoke 3 times a weekend. I'm down to Niagara Falls. I'm speaking at the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast Thursday night. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to come home and drop the puck at the Leaf game on Thursday night, the opening game. We're playing Montreal against Toronto, and we're going to celebrate Canadian hockey, actually. And Cassie Campbell, some of the people that played for Team Canada, Cassie Campbell is going to be there, and Lemieux and Coffey and Daryl Sittler and Ronnie Ellis and myself will be introduced before the game. So in Toronto, we're celebrating Canadian hockey, and I'll get to drop the puck at the first game this year.
Oh, that sounds exciting. I hope we can watch that on TV.
Well, I'm sure it'll be on out there. It usually is, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we get a lot of hockey here. You're right. Paul, really appreciate you coming on the program. 37 years ago, scoring that most famous goal in Canadian hockey history and updating on, what you're doing right now. Always appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you for this.
No, you're welcome, Wade. You have a great one, buddy.
You too. Thank you.
A wild snap, Wharton fell. Here's another shot, right by the score! Henderson has scored for Canada! Henderson right in front of the net! And the fans of the team are going wild!
And there's Foster Hewitt's call on this day in 1972.